doing it is done respectfully. And that's, one of the tenets of this particular conversation. The second thing is that everybody who attends here is a participant, and therefore they have the freedom to sort of express, ask a question or share views, share experiences. We build around the experiences mainly because from people's experiences, quite often you find that reforms or policies can be informed by these particular experiences, which come over time. Faith, let me also take this opportunity to thank you very much from the Uganda Investment Authority for arranging for us to end up with Mr. Peter Muramira coming in very late in Kampala. And I've seen Shamim Naiga, people in Uganda where it's already 11 o'clock and probably moving towards midnight. I thank you very much for the effort. People in Europe, actually many of you I know at work, and therefore quite often what happens, people just plug in, they listen in, but they can't talk. So if you cannot talk, it will be, well, perfectly fine. Just let us know. The chat room is open. You can put your questions if you are shy to speak. But the bigger picture is, it is good to hear you. All the way from the United States, I can see already Hafsa Kasuja is there. In London, Sawia is on. Thank you very much. I can also see Nagawa Shamim from Kampala. I've mentioned Farida Ntege, Brenda's iPhone, Hajat Sara Semakura, as usual. Thank you very much. Stella Wanderema, thank you very much for joining in. And we shall just go picking up and I can see Naika Julius, who is also from Famunera. This is very important. He's been flying from Uganda, only arrived in Dubai and decided to be a part of this conversation. And you will see why it is important to have Famunera as part of this conversation. So I was briefly saying that the remittances, the money that people send back home, because of COVID, of course, it has had a huge impact on all economies across the globe. When it gets to Africa, then again, you can imagine how much of a problem that would be. But despite that, still, Africans in 2020 were able to send $37 billion away from the normal 48 billion, which was the 2019 figure. But that tells you and speaks volumes just in terms of how much strength the diaspora does contribute to what is happening back home. It's a huge, huge pool of money that if it is well organized, definitely it will have a lot of impact. And that's why it will be important for us to hear, especially from across the globe. And if there are people from other countries, it will be good to hear, for example, what has happened. Mr. Muramira, I don't know if you're aware, but what happens, for example, in Rwanda, there is a diaspora desk in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs dedicated specifically to deal with diaspora affairs because they realized the need to mobilize the diaspora, especially at a time when foreign aid was beginning to dry up. The idea was now to see how can we collect money, how can we get our own diaspora, our own citizens abroad to contribute to sustaining us, making sure we do not die of hunger or starvation. And what happened is they started, for example, a $1 campaign where everybody in the diaspora was asked to contribute $1. Within a very short period of time, $1 million had been raised. And that speaks volumes just in terms of if these efforts are put together, what could actually happen. In the Ugandan experience, I think there's been one of the bigger problems, I think, which will come in the questions again, regarding the trust. People in the diaspora have had very nasty experiences with people back home, relatives that they send money to in the expectation and hope that this money would now be put to good use. And then what happens next are the many excuses that end up happening and appearing. And therefore, people are now sort of giving up or getting tired about the excuses. But could there be a way that they can be mobilized? How comes Kenyans, for example, can put together, despite their different tribes, regardless, they are Kenyans, and as Kenyans, they've put together and managed to come and put up a multi-billion estate, a multi-billion commercial, area where, they're earning money from this. Is it something that can be done in Uganda? So for those who have just joined us, the conversation tonight is we are looking at investing back home by the diaspora, and we are honored to have Mr. Peter Muramira. Mr. Peter, if I could ask you please just to say hello to our viewers and listeners to this conversation, just to prepare and get you ready for the conversation.
Thank you very much, Kassim. Can you just confirm that you can hear me audibly?
We can hear you perfectly clear. Yes, please.
Very well, very well. Listeners, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Peter Muramira. I'm the Director of Investment Promotion and Business Facilitation. And I bring greetings from the entire fraternity of your concierge service at Uganda Investment Authority that combines both the effort, Kassim, as you are aware, and listeners, not just to attract and preserve the investment that comes into the country, but also to attend to other policy issues that facilitate and make Uganda the investment destination for our good investors globally. So I am looking forward to this conversation. The issues that you've raised, Kassim, are very pertinent to us. Issues of the diaspora desk, issues of trust, issues of empowerment. And that is where we are going to be very categorically clear on one of those issues as we engage tonight. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Peter Muramira. So you have it there. And Mr. Peter, we have made you a co-host. Therefore, whenever you need to come in, you will be able to just unmute yourself and go ahead. So you've been made co-host there, just for information. For those who have just joined us, that's Mr. Peter Muramira. He's the director of diaspora. Sorry, one second. He's the director of investment promotion and business development, and therefore from the Uganda Investment Authority. That's quite high an authority there, and therefore will be able to answer many of the questions, especially for those in Uganda. But it's not limiting. I've spoken to people, and a very interesting conversation that as I was preparing for this program today. Today I drove in the car with a doctor. Are we able to see Mr. Peter on video? Sue is asking Mr. Peter, so maybe you'll try. I don't know whether you are in bed, but if it is possible, then it will be fine, I think, to see you later on. But sometimes, actually, that might affect the quality of the line, but we will see. And once we get Mr. Peter answering or responding to questions, we will make sure that we'll ask if it is possible, Mr. Peter, that you can, Mr. Muramira, rather, that you can be available on video. I think it creates a lot more trust and therefore faith in the conversation. Like I said, this conversation here, going forward, actually, if you get a chance every Tuesdays, 8 London time, which is 11 your time, please tune in if you can. The kind of conversations we have here are a different type of conversation. Whoever has come here, I think, can attest to that. So today we are talking the diaspora investment, the idea of getting people to go back to invest. And we've used a few examples. In Nigeria, for example, and I was just giving an example that tonight, as I was preparing for this particular conversation, I drove in the car with a doctor from Mauritius, Ile Maurice for the French speakers. And this lady, the doctor was telling me, we were sharing experiences, and I told her I was coming to do a program. In fact, she might be joining the conversation later. And we were sharing experiences just in terms of what is happening. And I was saying, if you got doctors, for example, from Mauritius, and you go back home and deal with the situation, say with COVID, wouldn't it make a lot more sense? Are there any incentives that the government has provided for you to be able to go back home? And interestingly, what is happening across much of Africa, for our viewers who probably are not in the know, many of the African countries are now spending money. They have decided to spend money to bring back their expertise, the people that are knowledgeable, that are from those countries, to come and contribute to their country's development. They might not be able to pay the full amount that is paid in the West, but even if they paid you half, one, you're getting a quality of life because you're home, but also you're contributing to the national development. Now, this doctor was telling me that one of the painful things is that when doctors, for example, abroad have decided to go back home and help in that particular sense, what has happened has been frustration from government officials who are feeling that, for example, their pharmacies, their private clinics are going to lose money, and therefore they frustrate these doctors, make the life untenable, and the doctor packs up and comes up where they are appreciated. So that is definitely probably something that in Uganda, it might not be the case. It might be the case. And these are questions that we can put to Mr. Peter Muramira, who is the Director of Investment Promotion at Uganda Investment Authority. We have so many questions. There are people probably who might be abroad and they want to look for partners locally. Is it something that, for example, the Uganda Investment Authority might be able, to arrange to help people get in touch with the right people? Is that a connection that has been thought about as part of developing business? Because some people, you will be surprised, there are people abroad here who have a lot of money. They have saved a lot of money, but they do not know what to do with it back home. Some people actually have taken the haphazard resolution to leave and thinking they have enough money to go back home and start doing business. By the time they establish what is supposed to be business, it is really too late. They've spent all the money. They do not know what is happening on the ground. Is there a system that is in place to try to help people understand? Actually, Mr. Muramira, let me just bring you in so that then we can get the conversation going while our people continue to join, and then we'll get questions. We can get the conversation going. Mr. Muramira, my question to you is, why would I want to invest back home? Why, as a Ugandan, would you want me to come and invest back in Uganda?
Yeah, Kassim, thank you very much. First of all, I apologize. You're right. Our internet connectivity where I am is not very strong, but for purposes of my face, that is who I am. And
the credibility.
just to make sure that I have not sent anybody to represent me. This is me, and I hope I'll be able to answer all questions and then come back on video as and when I'm needed. But allow me to turn off the video as I give my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So back to the question then, Mr. Muramira, and it's about why invest in Uganda? What is it about Uganda that would make people want to come? And there's already a thank you from Sue, who had asked to see your face.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I think, first of all, Kassim, once again, I want to thank you for this initiative. And listeners, you'll be happy to know that this is a very important time for the Ugandans everywhere. An important time both in the perspective of the climate that we enjoy, the position that we enjoy as a country in the region compared to our neighbors, a position that gives us a very comfortable destination as far as enabling environment is concerned, and this is which will propel even more reasons for engaging the diaspora investment. The answer to your question, Kassim, I believe is twofold. Number one, you have our deliberate effort as government of Uganda, where we say we will invest and we will help the investor find a safe landing. This addresses the issue of trust, but also we would like investors and the people in the diaspora, Ugandans in the diaspora, to come straight and deploy investment with information that is valid. So we are beginning from preparation. And that is where, for example, we are saying we are ready to engage, be it virtual, be it physically. There is engagement. And I want to make a correction that it's not only Rwanda that has a diaspora desk. The Republic of Uganda, over the last 10 years, has initiated a desk fully fledged in the office of the Foreign Affairs, which works very hand in hand with the Investment Authority to make sure that our missions abroad are equipped and are empowered to be the face of our authority here abroad. So to the extent that, be it what opportunities there could be, and here I'm talking of investment opportunities that we have prepared for you to come and take up, we are making sure that the missions abroad are sensitized on a regular basis, and these investment opportunities are popularized at all levels in that mission. So that if you walk in at any time, if you're in Brussels, if you're in Washington, if you're in Durban, you'll be able to learn what opportunities lie in the power sector, what opportunities lie in the agriculture sector, what opportunities there are in the tourism sector. Kassim, what we are also doing right now is a deliberate effort to further explain what benefits there are, what preferences, what incentives come along with such a decision to deploy investment in Uganda. Number one, there are tax-related incentives, but there are also non-tax incentives. These are a deliberate effort of government. Say, for example, there are tax rebates related to training costs in all sectors, especially tourism. Equipment for agro-processing enjoys a specific time window in as a tax holiday. We have equipment that comes into the renewable space, sector-specific incentives. So to answer your question, there is deliberate effort both on the fiscal policy side, where we are saying we'll address issues of tax, but also in terms of the policy side, administrative and this is the corporate side, to making sure that our investors, our diaspora is empowered in making decisions as they are coming. They are not vague about how they are going to deploy investment, but they are very sure that this is the opportune time to invest in this sector. These are the returns in this sector. And yes, some of this information might need fine tuning here and there, but we are saying, give us a chance to give you the information that you need. Gone and long ago are the days where you are just walking in the dark and sending information and asking for information from relatives and friends. Please don't get me wrong, I have nothing against your relatives, but here you have a specific desk for you. You have an office that is dedicated to answer all questions that you may have. And I would like to assure you listeners and Kassim that you are dealing with a new breed of leaders at Uganda Investment Authority. Everybody has been tasked to become a concierge for investor. You will come in, you'll concentrate on bringing the investment, we'll run around for you. Last but not least is the operation of the one-stop center. Under one roof, you have an amalgamated service of over 12 ministry departments and agencies that are a host to your issues, be it in land, be it in utilities, be it in Standards Bureau, be it in the Immigration Office. All those offices under the one-stop center are able to give you the service without you going anywhere else. These
now,
services...
You've said that was the last point, but I just wanted maybe for you a little bit of clarity on this, which is just in terms of, you're saying there is new energy in the Uganda Investment Authority. There is a new effort, a new zeal, a new approach to this. The problem is now getting other Ugandans, other departments of government to be able to get the same thinking process. Because there seems to be a sort of a put-down approach or sort of ideology in Uganda that everything, someone comes with something positive, but people start on the negative aspect, and there will be people that will frustrate your very efforts from within government. People who have been used to doing things a certain way, and now you're bringing a one-stop shop or one-stop center, which would definitely deprive some people of particular benefits that they've enjoyed for decades. How do you get around that?
Okay, thank you, Kassim. I think what we've been able to do is, and this is an ongoing effort. I cannot say that we have done everything and stopped. This is an ongoing effort, but where do we borrow our mandate? And that is where we start from. It's from the investment code. And we've been very deliberate about engaging stakes of government that we must remind ourselves that the National Development Plan, NDP3, which sits at the center of the vision of His Excellency the President, gives the mandate for coordination of these other entities of government by Uganda Investment Authority to deliver this service to our investment with a deliberate focus on propelling industrialization and transforming the economy between now and the next 30 years. So what we are doing for the next 5 years, we are speaking industrialization, for example. And the mandate that we have is to ensure that we plant 25 industrial parks. I'm giving an example. Whatever it takes, be it in the Ministry of Lands, be it with the local government authorities, where His Excellency has said, go and get land mobilized through the local agencies, so that by the time the diaspora investor or investors come and say, we want some land, we have already mobilized investment land for you. For example, Kisoro has offered 500 acres of land.
Which one? We said Kisoro.
Kisoro district.
Kisoro district, yes. And that is
Arua has given another 200
on the border area with DRC and Rwanda.
Exactly. So these are efforts that have happened in the last 12 months to kind of demonstrate to you that there is engagement. So it starts with the planning authority, where in the NDP3 they are saying Uganda Investment Authority will coordinate this exercise. Which exercise? To attract and promote investment. Now the dynamics of how that happens is a matter of the investment code, and it's a working in progress, and we are seeing positivity, be it at the local government level, be it in parliament. And the distinction here for me is the issue of engagement and making sure that we, our stakeholders, are on one page. And we have been embraced so far, Kassim, for purposes of this conversation, and there is hope in that direction.
You speak of 25 industrial parks. How are they distributed across the country? Are they all over the country, or are they concentrated in one particular area, one particular region?
We have just concluded a feasibility study kind of arrangement with the World Bank to ensure that we handle the issue of diversity and making sure that the mapping of the industrial park is equally distributed across the country. The guiding principles are two. One is to ensure that areas where people have a comparative advantage in are given first choice. So for example, if we know that this area is good in mineral X, we shall concentrate in that area for purposes of mineral value addition. And then if areas like Barara and Kato Corridor are best for milk processing, and we make sure that we attract industries of that nature. So yes, it is representative, but also the other side is the issues of environment. We are making sure that our swamps are protected, where the issues of sustainability are very key, but also ensuring that we are enabling our local, what I call district investment committees, participate in this establishment of industrial parks so that they are empowered to sustain them beyond just planting them, so that we hand over. And this is where the issues of local content come through, and making sure that as an investor, when you come, there are other issues that will be expected of you to ensure that they have a contribution they are making to the local population. Thank you.
If you've just joined us, this is Kassim Kayira, and the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are live on 75W Radio. We are also live on Umma Connect on YouTube and on Zoom. And our special guest tonight, Mr. Peter Muramira, but also you, the very big people that actually make this program what it is. I will actually open up the conversation so that we can get to ask Mr. Muramira a few questions. Just to acknowledge very quickly that we've also got Mr. Naika Enoch Julius from Famunera. Famunera, you will hear what it actually is. And before I open the conversation, because he's traveled actually very far in Tebe to Dubai and decided off the plane and straight into the program, One of the investment areas that actually Mr. Muramira has been talking about, one of the biggest investment areas has been the area of agriculture, the agriculture sector. The biggest setback that we have as people in agriculture, Mr. Muramira, I'm a farmer. I'm into livestock, I'm into crop production, but now we've also done something that probably will need to come to your office for attention. And we are trying to come up with the village, a London village, in which it's actually been called London Village, where it's about people in the diaspora, and it's about more than 200 families that are going to be settling in one area. So there's need for facilities like roads, like electricity, the utilities that need to be in place. And I think UIA would definitely come into place in a position like that. But one of the biggest setbacks that have come, especially in the agricultural sector, where many people have invested and many of the members here actually have tried to go into the agricultural sector, one of the biggest frustrations has been the issue of fake drugs, especially be it in the animal sector, be it even in the crop sector. Lots of fake drugs that have come into play, and as a result, they have frustrated many. I mean, it's a big problem for existing farmers, but now when it gets to a person in the diaspora, and one thing about people in the diaspora, you are used to listening to a particular direction. When someone tells you what we need is 100,000, you go and sweep, do your chair, and what you're looking for is the 100,000. The moment you have submitted the 100,000, anything extra to that is actually a recipe for disaster, because our mindset is set to that particular way. So when it comes to these drugs, the fake drugs, they've actually affected, especially when it comes to like chemicals that are even being used in the agriculture sector, they become a serious problem. So before I call in Mr. Muramira to continue with taking your questions now, please allow me to call in Mr. Naika Julius just to tell you briefly about Fonzera, because this has come in as one way of dealing with the issue of fake drugs, getting the right seeds. Why should I actually speak to him when he is here? Mr. Julius, please welcome to this conversation. Hello, Julius. You can just unmute yourself. I've highlighted you. You can just unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kassim. Hope I'm clear, loud and clear.
You are loud and clear. I wish we could see your face. Are you able to put your video on? At least in Dubai, the network should be fine.
Actually, I put my okay. So kindly let me know if
Okay.
you can be able to see my video.
Okay. No problem. It just helps with the credibility, because when people speak to a person and they hear the person.
Are you in position to see me?
We cannot see you yet. It's still dark. But you can go ahead. His video is on. Okay, it says your video is on, but I can't see. And Mariam,
okay. So
Mariam Texas says your video is on, but I can't see it for some reason.
Well,
are you able to see it?
My name is Naika Julius. I'm the
Oh, Julius, hello. Are you there? Hello, Julius.
It looks like we are doing better in Kampala in terms of connectivity.
It is definitely so. It definitely so. I think he should just disconnect and then try to reconnect. If he can try to reconnect again, and once he comes in, I think we'll take him on. Mr. Muramira, before I open up the conversation to the people while we're waiting for Julius to come in, my question to you was: you said you want to create a sort of one-stop center. Paint a picture for a person that is watching this program now. If I appear into the Uganda Investment Authority, I'm a potential investor, I'm from the diaspora, I need help. How would the process work? Probably just take us through just that sort of little breakdown that would make it easier for someone to get a feel of what it would be like.
Thank you, Kassim. So quickly, there are main objectives why we exist, and we have a physical office. Number one is to obtain a license as an investor. That when you come and approach Uganda Investment Authority, our aim is that you walk away with your investment license. That we are capping it at the moment. We are saying, let's have you with your investment license in 24 hours. His Excellency wants that to come down to 12 hours. And we are saying, and we're working around the clock to making sure that the partners we work with, because as I mentioned, NEMA must approve, Immigration must approve, the Standards Office must approve, the Registration Bureau must approve, so that at the end of the day, you have all those approvals, and then we issue the investment license. What we are aiming to do is that we would like to have that all related exercise done and issued under one license, so that we do the background work. The investor faces only Kassim at the till, and we do whatever it takes, just as a concierge in a hotel. You come, you take your bags, and then we let you sit and start planning for investment. So to paint a picture of the one-stop center is walking, I want an investment license, I'm doing agro-processing, we do receive all the paperwork, we run around, and then have a specific commitment to you and say, you'll have your investment license by this time, number one. Number two is this other investor who comes after 2 months, who has established and now would like to enter into probably a negotiation of acquisition of more land. We will then facilitate that. And that's where our component of facilitation, business facilitation, to make sure that we are all in commerciality of all investment. So we'll not let you walk alone. Once you have deployed investment, once we have given you an investment license, and we have we are hand-holding you, we make sure that we facilitate engagements that you might need elsewhere. After that, there are issues of matchmaking, and I think you mentioned that earlier on. How do we get our investors to tap into the existing investors that are local? We have, for example, our big SME community that require technology. If an investor in the diaspora comes and is looking to where one can deploy investment, this is an opportunity where we are saying we shall expose to you the matured SMEs that we have in each sector, in each region, cluster by cluster, and then you'll be able to deploy that investment without any kind of vagueness. The last one is our mandate, Kassim, that we have as under the Presidential Investment Roundtable. And this one touches on the issues of that you mentioned around fake drugs. There is a deliberate effort under the Presidential Investment Roundtable to ensure that we are addressing such issues through our technical working groups that are composed of the technical people in the parent ministries. Here we are talking of MAIF, Ministry of Agriculture and Industry, to identify one, opportunities for government to invest and making sure that we have our supply side covered. Can we, for example, produce the drugs here so that we can regulate the production of those drugs here? So there is a deliberate effort in attracting, for example, investors in that space, and we are very sure that that is one way of how we'll be able to deal with drugs coming in that are fake and others that are unregulated on the market. The other part is the leg of extension workers, where we are working with the Ministry of Agric, but also the Ministry of Local Government, to making sure that areas are covered and these extension workers are accountable. They know what's going on. They are not divorced from the issues on the ground, and the farmers know them. They are meeting them, and they are able to be educated with what drugs are working, what drugs are genuine, so that we limit that proliferation and that damage that is going on for the farmers and their produce. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muramira. And I'll just now bring in Mr. Naika Julius from Munera, talking about the fake drugs that you're talking about. He started one of the initiatives actually that I've been a beneficiary of, and therefore I can attest to it on the basis of, coming from experience. But maybe why should I actually be speaking for him? He should speak for himself. Julius, welcome to this global community conversation. How are you today?
Yes, thank you very much, Kassim. Actually, I'm sure I'm loud and clear.
You are very visible and very loud and clear.
Yes, so I just landed that again at Dubai airport. I told you we now enabling farmers to be able to export into the Gulf market. So we're going to be part and parcel of the Uganda UAE conversion as Famnera. So my name again is Naika Julius. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Famnera. Famnera is an agri-tech company that is leveraging mobile technology to support farmers to easily access genuine quality affordable farm inputs. And then we provide last mile delivery within 24 hours and also offer free farming advisory support in real time via our call center. And lastly, we offer them also produce marketing and also direct market for their produce for some value chains that we selected out. And we are actually building Africa's biggest digital farmers marketplace that's going to be able to serve farmers in those 4 aspects. And we're walking the talk. Since our inception in 2016, Famnera has been able to serve over 110,000 smallholder farmers and also create over 5,000 direct jobs across the entire agriculture value chain. And our goal now is to see that within the next 3 years, we must have served up to 1.5 million farmers and also created over 330,000 indirect jobs across the entire agriculture value chain. So briefly, that's what we are. And yes, thank you.
Like I said, Julius, I'm one of the beneficiaries of your products. And looking at the fake market, especially with seeds now, actually, the big losses come in terms of the planning process within the agriculture sector, getting the right seeds at the right time, getting the right seeds in the right quantities, but also getting this agricultural advisory. A lot of the advisory services that used to be at the district levels has actually been decimated because of the different levels of administration. How do you think you can help people, say, in the diaspora now to be able? Maybe let me just first ask you: do you know what the Uganda Investment Authority is? Sounds like an obvious question.
Yes, and yes, I know them, and I've actually managed to engage with some people there regarding similar issue within the agriculture sector and how we can be able to support both our local and diaspora farmers or people who are interested in getting into agriculture as a business.
Mm-hmm. Now, the problem has been the issue of even the wrong seeds being provided, being availed at the time of planting. How have you managed to get around that? Because you are a techie farm, but you have gone to the level of sourcing these seeds, for example, and being able to provide them to farmers in real time. How have you managed to do that?
Well, we created a digital marketplace that is transparent. It is easily accessed by farmers, whether farmer is in the diaspora whether the farmer has a relative, whether the person who is sponsoring the farmer is in diaspora, maybe they have a relative, they are sponsoring the agricultural enterprises. The digital marketplace can easily be accessed via the web app. Also, you can use it via web app. It means you can use it via your mobile phone, via your computer, via your tab. So it is responsive to any digital internet-based platform. Then we also have a USSD code, especially for those farmers who don't have access to internet, especially rural farmers. So they can just use their best phones and dial our code, which is *284*77#. Then for those who are using the web app, they are able to go directly to www.famnera.com. And those who don't have who want to use the call center still to access them, they can call us directly. So what happens is that we actually select out a few manufacturers of these inputs. We vet them. Of course, we make sure the process includes Ministry of Agriculture, must have certified these suppliers to be able to supply the different farm inputs on the local market. And also others must have been vetted by UNBS, that's Uganda National Bureau of Standards, and also other bodies that have specific interests that they should make sure are corresponded with. So once we vet these vendors, we have them open up digital stores on Famnera. They actually list their products at factory prices. Then Famnera comes in, adds a small margin, which still beats the price at which a local input dealer down there would have sold to this same farmer. So regarding quality, that's how we get to actually vet these vendors who are able to, where we now source the inputs that we deliver down to the farmers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Julius. And I think we have monopolized nearly the best half of 46 minutes. We haven't had, it has been a conversation between just the three of us. And therefore, I'll open the conversation now to get wider so that people can ask questions to our guests, Mr. Muramira and Julius, while you are still there. I know you are very tired and you should be going very shortly. Feel free when you have to go, we will just be fine to allow you to leave. Sulaiman Chibuka, Chef Sulaiman Chibuka, your question, please, to either Peter or Julius. Chef Sulaiman, are you there? Oh, right. Mr. Ismail Mugisha, if you are there, while Chef Sulaiman Chibuka comes, I just wanted you to share a little bit of the experience because I did mention. Mr. Mugisha, are you there? Can you unmute yourself, please? Just wanted, I can see some hands up and I was already trying to push. Okay, I'll go to the hands. Well, I'll get Mr. Ismail Mugisha, where I'd like to hear the experience from Rwanda in terms of the diaspora, what they have managed to do. Hasfa, please, you have, go ahead, please. Hasfa Kasuja.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Sheikh Keke, for the program. I have two questions for Mr. Peter Mulavida. I don't know what's that's.
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Naika. Number one for Mr. Peter. I'll give an example. Say I am a citizen. I'm a Ugandan, but I hold citizenship for United States. And today, as you know it, as a Ugandan, I need to pay money to go back home. I need to get a letter of invitation. I need to go through all these steps. I have to pay money at the airport. I mean, everything that I have to go through as a Ugandan who's going back home is such a hassle. So why would I want to invest in a country that doesn't even acknowledge or welcome me as a Ugandan? You know, I don't think that is fair. So things like that deter us Ugandans because already I'm looked at as a foreigner. already I'm being charged as a foreigner, even when they really see clearly that my name is Nachimera or whatever, but they will still tell you, no, you have to pay, we do not care. So as a Ugandan, you're going to charge me as a foreigner, but an Indian is going to come or a Chinese is going to come and they're going to give them a free pass.
Right.
When they are called.
Let me just get this clear. Maybe it will help.
So why my point is why would I want to invest in a country, my own country, which doesn't even recognize me as a Ugandan, as a native?
And I was putting a question to you, Madam Hasfa, which is Uganda has provided a provision for dual citizenship. Are you saying that you've only kept the United States citizenship?
Well, to the hassle of even going to the dual citizenship, even when I go to DC, to the office in DC, it's going to take me months to be able to get through to get another Ugandan pass, to get a Ugandan passport, to get the dual citizenship. I mean, I am still Ugandan. My birth certificate still shows Ugandan. That should be enough. So that deters me from trying to say, okay, let me go home and invest. But a Chinese is going to come and they're going to give them a free pass.
Mr. Muramira, question to you.
Everything. And now my second question to Mr. Naika is, he's talking about like you go to the website, you can upload all this, or you can, you go to the website, the way he has described it, to the farmers, and then you can be able to upload and then they'll find the blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, I don't want to go through all that. Now, my question is, the farmers in the village, they don't have access to the computer. What provisions are there to get those farmers in the village to come and be able to access the Famunera services so they can sell their produce? Because looks like it's only the few who are connected that have that. Is there any provision that they have put in place? That's my question.
Yes, I'll get the two guests to sort of respond to that, starting with Mr. Muramira. But just on the last question that you've mentioned, I don't know whether you listened well to Mr. Naika. For the farmers in the village, at least access to mobile phone has become so common that even the lowest person, the lowest of the low in Uganda, can afford a phone, not necessarily a smartphone, but a phone. For those people, there's what is called an SSD, which he mentioned. You just type X, you put star, whatever that number, we say 176 hash, and it sends a message. They receive even the prices. This is happening already in Uganda. You get the prices of commodities on a daily basis. But I'll leave Naika to answer that. I just wanted to flag that, whether you had that bit of the answer. Mr. Muramira, let's start with you on the question of the difficulty in being able to invest. I'm sure you had it.
Yeah, thank you. Hasfa, first of all, my apologies. Apologies to the of course, I can understand the frustration. This is home for you, Uganda and Kampala and anywhere that you choose to go globally where there is an embassy or a mission for Uganda, please feel at home. That is your home, next to home. But to respond specifically to your issue, we have taken a deliberate effort and an initiative with the Ministry of Internal Affairs to ensure that the online services are up and running. We realized that there was frustration, not just for Ugandans, but also for our investors to have to deal with them physically at the airport. So the online service empowers you as the applicant. Where there is any delay or any frustration on your end, there are channels of appeal. We are also extending this same message to the missions abroad, and we are in constant communication with the ambassadors where there is a whole effort on how to sensitize and ensure that everybody in the mission is inducted as far as what that impact is to the investment if done well. So, as I said at the beginning, we acknowledge there were gaps. Those gaps have been taken care of in the new initiatives around online service, but also on our effort with the missions and heads of missions as in ambassadors. So as I speak, if there is any frustration, there are channels of appeal, and that is where we are committed to intervene and ensure that we are giving that service that ordinarily would not have been at UIA. But today, the Office of Immigration has got a desk at UIA. If a complaint comes from Hafsa, even if it's at midnight, that complaint is brought to my attention the next day. And I will engage all my contacts in all the ambassadors to make sure that that issue is addressed. This is a system that is working, and I'm not just talking on radio. I want you to test it. I want you, after this call, to test and make sure that if what I'm saying is not working, and we shall put that officer in that mission to book if there's any frustration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muramira. I had muted myself and I was talking to myself. I suddenly realized. I see the hands that are coming up. I'll take your questions. There was a question from Mr. Naika Julius. Let's from Hasfa, and then I'll come to, there's a number +44742621915. I'll come to you, and then Sheikh Suleiman Chibuka, who is available now. Naika, the workings of Famunera, which I think you put a note in the chat room, which I've seen for those who want to watch a documentary on how Famunera supports smallholder farmers in Uganda. You can actually just click on the link and be able to watch it. To you, Mr. Julius. Oh, you are muted. Oh, sorry. I was sorry. Yeah, if you can unmute yourself, please. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kassim. I shared actually a video, like you said, a link to the Senyan documentary about what Famunera they broadcasted about what Famunera does and how to support farmers. When you get time, people here should actually be able to check it, and it's also available on our YouTube channel if you go directly. So probably to clarify on our business model, I think it's very important to make it clear that Famunera supports farmers at the inputs level. That means we support them to easily access genuine quality and affordable farm inputs for use in production. The inputs, I mean seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, irrigation systems, and farm equipment or farm tools. Now, these can easily be accessed on the 3 channels I spoke about. That is the USSD code, which doesn't require a farmer to have a smartphone. You only need a basic phone. This Sokability phone, I think you well know about that name, Kability phone. These basic ones, the lowest phones. And then by dialing our code *284*77#, you can easily be able to see the different products in their respective categories and also be able to see the prices. We are moving an extra mile to actually even localize as far as many languages that are spoken in the country to make sure that anybody within any different part of the country, they can easily interact with this USSD platform within their local language. So far we have, and then the other approach is using the web app. That is for those who can afford to have a smartphone and internet access. Then the third option is via our call center, whereby you only call and then you can speak. We have agents who can speak different languages and be able to be supported in that line. Now, when it comes to the produce at harvest, Famunera comes and actually buys produce directly from these farmers, because when farmers are buying inputs from the start of the season, we are able to know how much they are going to produce within a particular period of time. So meaning we can easily be able to aggregate demand for the market earlier enough based on how much potential they are going to yield. Then we come in directly and buy from the farmers at their farm or nearby our bulking centers where they can deliver easily. for those key value chains we've been able to map out. For instance, soya, and and then onions within horticulture, and Irish potatoes. Now, for those crops that Farmnera doesn't buy directly, it means we have a platform which you can use to market that produce there. Or if you don't have, we can be able to link you to potential off-takers of those particular produce. But as Farmnera, we buy a few items that we've been able to guarantee long-term market, because for us at off-take or at produce marketing, we target large off-takers. That means agro-processors. We also target hotel chains, supermarket chains. So, and also we target long-term business. That means that's why we don't buy everything, because we want to tackle one value chain, one crop value chain at a time. However, the marketplace is available for you to use it and to your best interest and market your produce. Or our desk is open for you to inquire, and then we probably link you to those that can offtake your produce.
All right, Julius.
Probably also to, okay, please. All right.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to bring in more people into the conversation so that we can get in. Hafsa is still in the chat room, says in the US today, the only matoke we get from Uganda are from only one lady connected to the big shots. Other farmers have been very frustrated because of monopoly. That's a message in the chat room. Remember, you can keep your messages coming in into the chat room. Ajat Sara says, what is very annoying is that our nationality was acquired by birth and cannot be denied. Yet citizenship is a legal right a person requires or acquires with a given state. So how can we be told to get dual citizenship when we are Ugandans and be treated as foreigners? Okay, question number +44, which ends 915. You have the microphone, please. Go ahead. Keep your questions short and sweet, please, so that we can put in a lot more and get the answers provided, please. But feel free. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Mr. Kassim Kayira. This is Imam Chiwanuka.
Oh, Imam
Chiwanuka, you don't know my number.
The number. There was no name. Welcome to the conversation.
Yes,
go ahead.
I've got a question to Mr. Mnanura. Yeah, when foreigners come home to invest, they are normally they don't come with enough money. They are given a boost, starting with land, and they give them money to start the investment. On starting the investment, they employ their own people. They can bring people to employ, to do the job. So we stay wanting. I don't know, Mr. Mnanura, if I'm coming home to invest, is there any way you can give me a hand financially to add on the money I have and land so I can go ahead with my investment? That's my question. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Imam Chiwanuka. Thank you very much. And I'll just add this question, which is in the chat room from Honorable Ochailam, so that Mr. Muramira can answer both questions. He says, I would like to support our farmers in Katapi district, which is very dry, but with fertile land. Which best method can we use to improve farming or agriculture, especially during dry season? I think that would be a question to Mr. Julius there. Yes, go ahead, please, Mr. Muramira. In response to Mr. Imam, who wants some boosts like the foreigners are given.
Thank you. Kassim, I wanted to just give a disclaimer that I don't want to pretend to be an immigration officer here, but I want to basically assure our fellow Ugandans in the diaspora that there is all effort to ensure that you are empowered with information, you are empowered with the contacts that and channels of appeal to making sure that you are getting the right advice and timely response to whatever query you might have. But going to the question in respect to our investors that are coming in with either no funds or with funds but no technical skills. I mean, this is not uncommon. What we are seeing, our dear listeners, is we have both types. So an investor will come typically with funds and with the technical expertise. Very good. And he will ask for where land is, he will pay. But then there is another person, another group of investors that will come with no funds, in which case we are preparing our clusters of investors. We are also the arm of government that takes care of local investors. What do we do for them? We empower them to make decisions as far as businesses are concerned, so that they are not just traders, that they are investors, that they can be given opportunities categorically, and we attract them specific sectors. You talked about the contribution of the diaspora. We are deliberate in making sure that some of these sectors are given attention. Right now, we can not be everywhere when the health sector needs attention. We cannot be everywhere when the value chain for agriculture needs support. And again, with the finances, our sources of funds are not kind of giving a blank check. They are specific. They are saying they are kind of concessions or concessional funds that we shall demarcate for this and this sector. So the empowerment that I spoke about, Kassim, earlier on, is we will sit with the investor with that in mind and say to the diaspora investor, if you invest in this sector, this will attract financing for you at this rate. Whereas this sector might not attract any kind of financing. But also we'll do the matchmaking so that when you say that you don't have funds, there are associations, business associations, circles that have funds that have been saving over time, but do not have ideas. So if you have the idea and you're in the diaspora and you do not have the funds, we have prepared a host of associations here or saving groups, investment groups that we are mobilizing region by region through our regional business development service centers, which we have also deliberated, put at region by region, identifying these associations. Will matchmake, and you'll find that funding is not an issue. I want to inform this forum that actually the limitation has ceased to be funding as far as investment in this country is concerned. What we find that the issues are around data. The issues are around preparedness of the deal, but the maturity of the deal, the projects that are being ready. So the effort now is to making sure that, for example, we have a deal room. And I'm rushing here, Kassim, because I also want to join Julius. I'm on the Uganda Airlines flight, but he's coming out of Uganda to the expo in the next morning. So I'm trying to be very quick so that Julius has company while he's in Dubai. So we want to make sure that there is sufficient data online, so that these questions that you're asking, you can access it online. And also we are saying, can we prepare these deals that are ready? So our next investment, we are dealing with our partners at the office in the embassy of the US and the UK trade and investment team to ensure that we have a deal room, active deal room. This deal room and the data room shall empower you, our diaspora investors and all the global investors, so that where you have an idea or concept and you don't have funds, you'll find you'll find a match in the deal room, and there's also sufficient data about that match so that you are comfortable to engage. And then any other question, that deal room will be facilitated to ensure that all answers are available and you'll be able to make quick decisions as far as such investments are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muramel. I'll bring in the next person, Mr. Suleiman Tibuka. In the chat room, there was already a question, but I think it's a straightforward one, probably you can respond to it, which is, how does that person become an investor when he has invested nothing? It's about the person you mentioned about having an idea but having no funds, whether they can still be called an investor. Sheikh Suleiman Tibuka, you have the next question. Please, your hand up, and then I'll come to Nagawa Shamim. let's keep our questions short so that we can get the answers. Mr. Muramira, Julius has arrived in Dubai. He's not leaving. He's just arrived and he decided to keep at the airport so that he could get better network connection.
No, it's me. It's me who's leaving in a few hours.
It's you who is leaving, actually. So yeah. Hopefully we can maximize that. And thank you very much, actually, for making the time in the midst of that. Chef Suleiman Tivuka, please unmute yourself. Ready to with your question, please. Suleiman Tivuka.
He's asking that if you can unmute him.
Yes, I've asked him to unmute, and he looks like he's not going for it. Yeah, please unmute yourself, Sheikh Suleiman. In the meantime, I can get Shamim so that Sheikh Suleiman now gets to unmute himself. Nagawa Shamim, can you unmute yourself, please?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Well, thank you very much for taking the time. It's very late in Kampala where you are. Your question.
I'm not in Kampala.
Oh, tell me about it. Okay, where are you?
Yeah. United Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Oh, yes. So thank you very much.
Okay, my question is.
It is pretty
yes,
late.
It is late.
My apologies. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. My question is, why is it that investors that do not have anything to do with blood relations in Uganda are exempted from taxes, and yet investors in Uganda they are taxed more? You find a company, someone opens up the name in he opens up the company in his name, is accepted from tax 5 years, he goes back, he closes the company, the daughter and the son, every relative comes back and reopens the company, and all that operation, they are all exempted from 5 years taxes. Why? And
I'm not sure I understood your question, Shamim. I don't know whether Peter has understood. Has the question been understood? Mr. Muramira, have you understood the question?
Yes, Kassim, I think let me try to answer Shamim. And this is where we've had a challenge in respect to the whole package of incentives. And this is our next effort. Our next effort is going to be around incentive packages for both foreign and local investors. Today, when you come to invest and you are looking into a specific sector, you will find certain privileges in that sector, regardless of where you're coming from. We do not want to favor Ugandans. For example, agro-processing has specific incentives, 100% exemption from tax on income from agro-processing. That doesn't talk about foreign or local. 100% exemption on expenditure on scientific research. If you have, for example, investment you want to bring and partner with Uganda Investment Authority on data and research, 100% exemption on expenditures, 100% exemption on training and training materials for agro-processing. That does not know whether you're foreign or you're local. So the industrial parks, for example, that I've talked about, if you access an industrial park land, 10 years tax exemption for investors leasing and renting industrial park free zone. That is whether you are foreign or local. The issue here is, are you ready to deploy $50 million? If yes, incentives are there. Then others are non-tax. Again, as I had mentioned, for example, we assist you to secure land for industrial development. We'll help you, whether you're local or foreign. Namamve is full of local investors. They are not all foreign. Securing land for agricultural development, the agricultural land that we have in Masindi, half of the people there doing commercial farming and value addition are not foreign, they are local. We facilitate investors to access infrastructure services regardless. Roads are for everybody. Power is for everybody. And these are incentives that cut across. And finally, Kassim, on issues of policy and advocacy, say, for example, you feel that you do not have support on which land you're in, there are neighbors that are probably going to be tampering with your chain of production and you want them relocated. That is our core work. And that doesn't know whether you're foreign or local. Again, as I said, Uganda Investment Authority is home for coordination. We coordinate all other entities, including Parliament, to effect laws, to effect policies that enable investment, regardless foreign or local investors involved. So I wanted to assure you, Shamim, that we do not have any kind of segregation. Uganda Investment Authority is very deliberate as far as building a 1 billion investment in the next 5 years. How we get that, it does not matter whether it is foreign or local. We are out there. We're making sure that the ground is level and the ground attracts investment globally. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Haswa, please, if you can help make Suleiman Chivuka a co-host, that will allow him probably to unmute. I've tried to get him to unmute, but it's failed. I
already did.
Already. Okay.
Yeah.
Sheikh Suleiman, can you go ahead? I don't seem to be seeing him. Sheikh Suleiman Chivuka, you had a question there. Mr. Muramira, while Sheikh Suleiman Chivuka comes in, there is the question of, oh God, why is it run away from my head so suddenly? Are there particular areas that you can point out for a person that, a diaspora investor that wants to come home? Are there particular sectors that you would say these are sectors with a quick return on investment, with a faster return on investment, with relatively less risk, because all investments are about risk, but the lesser the risks, the better it is, especially when you have to throw your money into a hole. Mr. Muramira.
Kassim, I'm very these days. I'm very, very clear on which sectors those are, and I can go on and on, but let's focus, and I'll tell you why. Yes. So at the beginning of my conversation, I did mention that we are enjoying a very central place. This market, Uganda, is central, and when you produce anything here, it will end up anywhere in the region. So what is it that you can sell? So we are positioning ourselves as a food basket. So agro, you're good. We want to be a food basket, but we also want to be the store. So we want to be the supplier when there is demand, because we are able to access anywhere in the region. Related to that is also attracting good productivity, because people must eat. So we must have a productive force. So we want to be a good labor market, and we are saying, can we invest in health? Can we have health services where people across the region can come to enjoy that service? So we want to make sure that Uganda, with the investment over, for example, the facility in Oroa, which is a world-class specialized hospital, and other investments that we are seeing in terms of bringing specialized equipment for testing and for making sure that our good labor, which is young and vibrant, remains productive and best at it in the market. So if you want to invest, health is another sector. Last is, of course, tourism. Tourism comes with also meetings and conferences. For example, we want to ensure that there are many munyonyos, there are many exhibition centers where we can hold not just Commonwealth meetings, but we can have also the Group 8 coming here, because we already have a good climate where the equator meets the country. We want to make sure that Uganda, the people of Uganda, are selling it themselves in tourism. We are already friendly, but that must now come with good food, must come now with professional service. We have invested in a hospitality training center where we want to now produce the best waitresses and the best waiters. and train them and making sure that we're even exporting those across, which comes to the last sector, which is education, because we want to make sure that we sustain what we have seen already. Uganda seems to be, Uganda's education seems to be very attractive. People sending children here, and we want to make sure that education keeps on top. So any investment as in training, and that's why I was saying that any exemptions that you expect, they will be in training of equipment, and also training of services. So those are the 4 critical areas. But again, the list is long in terms of opportunities. And again, I encourage you to go on the website. The bankable projects that we have just released that have attracted for us over $950 million of investment from just our engagement in the Dubai Expo speaks to this, that there is growth of confidence. And that confidence means that within a year or so, the statistics on ease of doing business in Uganda will improve. What will that mean? That we'll then have more demand and flow of direct investment, and that again in itself will be an opportunity for you to partner through PPPs, private-public partnerships, where that alone will be a channel for finance, and making sure that we mobilize people, we mobilize the right development partners to ensure that we are powering the economy in the right direction. Thank you.
Fantastic. Suleiman Chibuka, you come on, please, and then I'll get Naika Julius to respond to one question, and then we'll let him go. But then Suleiman Chibuka, you have the mic, sir.
Oh yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Kayira, and thank you very much, Julius and Mr. Mnanura for.
Mr. Muramida.
Mr. Muramida, sorry.
Muramida, yes, people are calling him Mnanura. it's Mr. Muramida, Peter. Yes.
I'm sorry, just getting it from one of the previous speakers. I'll call him, so I'm really sorry. I apologize for that, Mr. Muramida. And I really thank you so much, for being candid and being as honest as I would imagine you've been. But of course, still miles away from satisfying, there's so many questions that many members of the diaspora still have. And I think for me, the most important question was, I think one of the previous, speaker, I think was Sharifa, the recent, sister female, speaker, who mentioned about the line that has been drawn between the diasporian and, the foreign investors, which I think, it doesn't reflect the kind of respect and recognition and acknowledgement of the support and the contribution of the diasporan community to the Ugandan economy, as we know that it's quite a very big chunk of the GDP. And as a result, I think if foreign investors have a right for TRs of a given period of time, tax reliefs, so should be the diaspora, because we do share a lot in common. Not just bring money from abroad, but actually we are Ugandans. We are Ugandans. We don't believe in, whatever people will come second. We are Ugandans in and out. When we are abroad, we talk about going back home. But if home doesn't see us as those who belong, but still looked at as foreigners, I think it's a little bit of a disincentive in itself, a subtle disincentive. And I think that really has to be taken on board. And secondly, the other point I wanted to say is, could you comment, probably Mr. Mulamira, about there was a recent message that was being circulated over the WhatsApp message and social media about land, and every policy that is being put forward affects positively or negatively, across the board, whether people are in Uganda or abroad. But of course, for a foreigner, a diasporian, they really have to think whether I have to, maybe to raise more funds to meet the new regulatory requirement when it comes to buying land that is worth over 10 million. And I think I was speaking to Mr. Kayira as well about that message. Is it true that there is a regulation that if you are selling or buying land worth over 10 million shillings, there is a new tax that is going to be levied on that? The last point I want to raise is that I think would be working well with the youngsters who are in the diaspora, is that my feeling is that there are so many youngsters from the diasporan community who are really feeling the urge and the zeal to go back and do something in Africa. And quite many of them have been exploring other parts of Africa, like Ghana, West Africa, Nigeria, as part of their internship. Many of them have come back with a wealth of experience, have been exposed to the working, the economy, health of the third world. They don't find probably the, the atmosphere. Maybe they don't find similar kind of, initiative in maybe in Uganda for such arrangement of welcoming youngs who might want to do an internship, across the different sectors of the economy. And maybe they might choose to stay, and you could just imagine how much of the skills and the expertise they would be bringing, part of which probably the country never contributed. They were studied abroad, but they want to come back and do some internship, and many of them might be ending up, staying. And you cannot underestimate the value the diaspora community will be contributing through those youngsters who might find probably, they might tap into maybe an yet to be explored potential areas for investment. So I just wonder whether that is within the making of policies or something that have been thought of before. I think those are the three questions I wanted to to raise. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Suleiman Chiruka. Mr. Muramira, you have it. And to me, actually, I think I have even a much stronger point to add to this home. I'll just say it bluntly. Ugandans don't feel welcome. Ugandans in the diaspora do not feel welcome back home. From the time you arrive at the airport, the manner, the kind of treatment that you receive from the immigration officials, at the desk, it does not make someone feel welcome. You come to Uganda, you have come with all this money that you're going to be, investing in different things. You don't get that same welcome. You return to UK as you arrive, black as you are with your red passport, the first thing is welcome home. That alone has a way that it feels. And it has to do with the psyche of the nation, that as part of the struggle that you are making right now to attract investment, to attract diasporans, one, the people in the diaspora want to feel appreciated for the contribution that they are making to the economy, directly or indirectly, through the support to the families and so on. People do not feel welcome. What are you doing as the Uganda Investment Authority to make us feel that the moment I land, I feel that this is Kassim, I am home? There is that feel, and I'm sure Suleiman Chiruka has put it in several words, but narrowing down to this particular point. Let me put it to you, Mr. Muramira.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman. Thank you, and Kassim, and thank you for your passion, and thank you for the patriotic kind of enthusiasm for this country. I take the feedback, and that is not far-fetched. I believe we need to be honest. We need to be truthful. There's been some work to do. What are we doing as Uganda Investment Authority? We have held a deliberate move to ensure that our partners, be it with civil aviation as the first point of contact of the landing, people landing in from abroad, are sensitized about the impact of the service they offer to the investors that are incoming. The missions abroad on how they treat the people in the diaspora, we ensure that we educate the impact of what they do or what they don't do in terms of the investment that we anticipate. So our effort does not just stop in producing manuals and promotional materials. We are now dealing with people, making sure that we are doing induction. Kassim, just last week, I completed a fortnight of induction of local government officials in making sure that how do you treat the investor? How do you make sure that an investor is somebody like a customer, that this is somebody who's employing a number of people. Those number of people have families, and those families depend and look up to that investor. We're trying to translate the same, making sure that from the immigration officer at Entebbe, what are the do's and what are the don'ts? What are you expected to say? What are you expected not to do? So that the investor does not get turned off. Coming to the youth, and I want to go straight to the issues that you mentioned around how are we mobilizing enough the youth to making sure that they take up the gaps that we are seeing in training and capacity building. Yes, also we do recognize that, again, as far as the transfer of knowledge, transfer of technology that is required here, we are identifying those gaps in different sectors, and those are the profiles that I talked about earlier on. There is an ongoing effort, what we are dubbing sector deep dives, to identify the gaps, but also the potentials in the sectors. And very soon, this report will be coming on board to making sure that our missions abroad are sensitized, so that opportunities in those sectors across the value chain, mineral value chain, agricultural value chain, tourism value chain, so that we identify where we can bring in expertise, but also bringing in youth and women, to making sure that we are diverse enough, but we are tapping in selectively from our diaspora range. And I think lastly, which is also related to the sector deep dive that we are doing, is the regional profiles. We are making sure that we profile the whole country, region by region, to making sure that we identify gaps where those gaps can be filled by our good partners. We are entering joint programs with different missions. For example, we had the mission of India there, and surprisingly, there were diaspora members there in the delegation. These are business communities abroad mobilized under the missions, and I encourage you to take part in all kind of forums that there are at mission level, to making sure that you participate and you're on board in case there are any efforts in that direction that you can participate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muramira. Now, you have spoken about what you are doing. What are the challenges that you are facing in being able to do what you have been able to do? What are the sort of setbacks or impediments to the progress, to progressing in what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think the common problem that cuts across all sectors is going to be the issue of mindset. We do have it's a very big problem where we have to engage across the value chains in how we change the concepts of people involved at all sectors. And we are trying to do this through capacity building workshops, kind of empowerment, to empower the decisions at different levels. But again, as I said, it hinges a lot on, for example, our curriculum in the education system, what people have always believed in, what the cultures have always been. But we shall not tire, we shall not give up, we continue the effort, and it is joint effort across all sectors, development partners, government, the private sector, and yourself. For example, such a forum cannot go unthanked, and I want to acknowledge you that the effort that you're doing shall definitely make impact in the long term. Once we are out there and we are consistently doing it, and I'm sure that within a short time, this will change and the future will be bright. Thank you.
Haspa is saying in the chat room, red tape coupled with corruption and not forgetting nepotism is the order of the day. That has deterred many diasporans. What can the UIA do to entice? I think it says to entice them, to entice and instill Ugandans in the confidence in the system.
Yeah, Kassim, I think what we are doing here is what I say, that it's a new breed. We don't entertain certain things at UIA. There's no room for corruption. There's no room for nepotism. We do want to make sure that we live the talk, we walk the talk, and yes, there could be you'll hear some discordance, but as an authority mandated to coordinate all sectors and all state-owned enterprises, we want to make sure that we are minimizing damage that is coming from such vices. So we are not just talking, we are on the ground, we are making sure that our service is given to those that deserve it, and then we're making sure that we are coordinating properly with the entities of other government to making sure that regularization is also and enforcement is consistent. Thank you.
We are draining you very much, Mr. Muramira, but many hands are coming up actually. So we'll allow. So Eddie Masaba, you are first, and then I'll go to Hajat Sarah, then Musa Rugemwa. So Eddie, please keep it short so that we can add. I think the conversation quite often gets more interesting as we build up towards the end. There was a question from Said Katende in the United States, which I think has been answered very. Maybe Mr. Muramira might touch it probably. Which is, it says, I'm Said Katende. How are you mitigating the challenge of corruption across the investment chain? I think you've touched it a little bit. Masaba, go ahead. Maybe Mr. Muramira.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My one goes specifically to what Uganda Investment Authority is doing about the issues of our. Okay, this is a question that is more suitable for the Ministry of Labor, but where the time I spent in Mbale, the time I spent and visited the business park, the Chinese business park in Mbale, the problems that I was listening out to the people is they're underpaid. How can you pay somebody 3,000 shillings a day? And this is happening on our watch. We have a full minister in charge of this docket. We have all the policies in place. We have Ministry of Labor, and all these young men are crying and saying the Chinese are paying them 3,000 shillings a day, and they're working from 7 to 7, 12 hours a day. And then we are very happy, clapping, and we are happy that we have got foreign investors coming to invest in the country. This is what frustrated me. This is what is making Ugandans have this whole negative attitude towards the so-called Chinese investors. It's a good thing to have foreign direct investment in the country, but how is it being translated into bettering the lives of the people? When you look at the areas where for example, the surrounding areas that are supposed to benefit from the industrial park in Mbale, people are still living below the poverty line. And remember, these people were displaced. These people, their land was taken away. Their land was given away to the foreigners. And but they have not yielded any benefits from them losing their land. Their own children who have been told to come and work they're only paid 3,000 shillings a day. That's less than 50
The question then to the Uganda Investment Authorities, do they intervene at any point to make sure that the interests of Ugandans, the local input into the production process, benefits from the process? I think that's the question. Am I correct?
Thank you. That's correct. That's spot on. That's spot on.
And as you come in, another question just so that you take the three together. Thank you very much, Panasoledi. A question from the person in the chat room here. I'll see what the name is. I think it's Mozambique. He says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mine is on electricity. I have invested in fisheries, but at the moment I'm struggling. With the issue of poles, which each pole is far more expensive. What can I do in order to power the facility? And that is to Mr. Muramira. Again, that's another investor who has invested in a place called Akura. That is just after Karuma there. I've been to his fishery farm and I've seen the frustration that he's facing. Question to you, Mr. Muramira. And then I'll go to Hajat Sarah so that then we can pick it up. Those questions, Mr. Muramira, if you are there.
Yes. So first of all, thank you, my brother from Mbale. Point of information, though, no Ugandan has been displaced off land that has been given to an investor without compensation. If there is any who has been displaced, there are channels of appeal, and the Land Commission instituted by His Excellency the President is active, and everyone will be brought to book. I want to assure you that no Ugandan has been displaced and will be displaced in the name of investment. Wherever there's any displacement, there will be negotiation and compensation. Number one. Number two, on issues of minimum wage, we want to do it the other way around. So what we are emphasizing are issues of skilling. Recently, the oil and gas sector engaged us and said, for purposes of EACOP, the East Africa Crude Oil Pipeline construction that will come from Kabale down to Tanzania, we are short of skilled welders. How do we ensure that our curriculum, and I touched it earlier on, addresses issues of technical training so that then we are able to negotiate with our partners, that is the Total, the CNOC and Co, that are our joint partners for such projects. Then we can jointly agree and say, these are the salary scales for our employees, because it's a business discussion. Even in Mbali, it was a business discussion. If certain skills are not readily available here, and the Chinese investor or any investor who has access in that facility must find where to get this technical skill. My prayer, therefore, is that we support government in establishing vocational institutions across the country, and then we encourage training by way of attracting even partners in that space. I mentioned it earlier on. How do we ensure that our workforce is not only skilled, but has got the accreditation required, because we are now dealing with global investors. They expect certain standards, they expect certain accreditation. When we speak to them and they put lists of qualifications that they require for certain technical positions, I want to tell the listeners that we are still short. But the hope is in our good technical education and how we now position our country and our good youth to tap into that space, identify and be deliberate and negotiate. That will help them to negotiate for better salary, as we also engage, of course, the ministries that are in charge to ensure that the minimum standards as far as and penalties for those that are taking advantage, and the industrial courts are working well, and this is what is normally working in all sectors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hajat Sarah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
Thank you so much, KK. My concern is about how well the offices operate these days, at least where people have to take all their paperwork that they need in order to put up their investments, because previously you'd find that someone who is holding a certain office would go out of office and go for lunch and then does not come back for 2 days. Yeah. And then you have to bribe from the sweeper to get to see the relevant official. So this has been our history of our mode of working and our history in our country, that people get offices, but they don't really work. They're in and out at their own time, and they take a lot of time for people to process their documents, whatever they want, whether it is land titles. You may not be able to see anyone in the office for quite a number of days or weeks. How are they working on that?
Well, Mr. Muramira said it's a new order now, but let me him say it for himself. He says they're opening up a new order now, a new arrangement. Mr. Muramira, question for you. Let me actually take Musa Rugemwa as well, so that we take 2 questions and then we can try to answer them together. Mr. Musa Rugemwa, your hand was up, and was your question answered, or you felt your hand was freezing? Musa Rugemwa?
Maybe I can just answer that as Musa gets sorted out.
Yeah. Sure.
So look, as I said, some of this is work in progress. We acknowledge that there are gaps. I do not want to sugarcoat anything on behalf of everyone. But where I can assure listeners is that the level of accountability, the level of the Office of the Inspector General of Government and the other functions around ethics and integrity, the functionalities, and when you see the provisions under the whistleblowing mechanism in government, you don't want to be caught out. I can tell you that for free. You don't want to be caught out. Myself, I have left banking. I was in banking. I worked for Citibank. I worked for Barclays. I worked for Standard Chartered. Before that, I was in an insurance company. But I can assure you the levels of accountability in the government, be it in the Ministry of Finance, be it in URA, before I talk about UIA, are not comparable to where I have been before. I want to assure you, listeners, that at the moment, the country and the leadership is focused on issues of accountability, on issues of ethics and integrity, on issues of personal credibility. So we do not want, or no one wants to be caught out. I'll be surprised if you see such an incident happening at UIA, because, for example, we track activities on a daily basis. We want your performance results on a daily basis. There is a weekly meeting, which is a business meeting, where you're reporting what you did last week, what you have done today, what you're going to do next week. How do you afford to take lunch for 2 days? I don't know. And I will not supervise you. You can leave jackets on your chair, but I will need to know the arithmetic of what you've done. So just to assure you, listeners, that this is no joke in this subject, and we are very, very serious.
We will quote you on that, Mr. Muramira. You didn't answer the question on the electricity, the electricity issue. Other than the cost, the idea of even getting, like poles to a fisherman. Man invested huge amounts of money. He was even in the tourism sector, decided to wrap up and put the money into the fisheries. Now electricity has become a frustration for his investment. And Musa Rugemwa is ready, I think, now. So probably let's take Musa Rugemwa and then you answer both, please. Soedi Masaba in the chat room has said the best way is actually to just get, the only way forward is government introducing apprenticeship schemes in all these Chinese factories as a way of tapping into that. Musa Rugemwa, go ahead, please, with your question, and then get Mr. Muramira to respond.
Kassim, did I lose you there?
Did I disappear? No, I was saying I will take Musa Rugemwa's question, but I was referring to a question that you didn't answer, which was about electricity for the investor in the fisheries, the man who invested huge chunks of his money into
Yeah, sure. I'll get to that. Let Musa Rugemwa proceed.
Musa Rugemwa, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kassim, Kayira, and thank you very much, Mr. Muramira. I've got 2 or 3 questions very briefly. The first one is regarding, you talked about tertiary training, okay? I mean, trying to upskill the population. Now, when we were growing up, there was a program of providing practical skills to kids as young as primary, where they used to take us to agriculture. They used to take us to agriculture institutions at the age of, I think at the age of 8, 9, 10, for us to start learning proper real agriculture. For example, if you look at our villages, okay, now in our villages, you notice that these people have got no jobs. So if these kids if we instill those practical skills into these kids as young as primary, okay, I think that would help much. And secondly, we used to have these institutions starting at primary 7. Kids used to leave P7. They used to go into plumbing, carpentry. Where did all those institutions go? What happened? Okay. Now, the second question I have for you is regarding payment technologies. You find that so many countries in Africa have, countries in Africa have the countries like Zimbabwe, Ghana, mainly West Africa. Okay, South Africa is far, it's far ahead. Egypt. Okay, they have started. Okay, they have. No, they are implementing more modern payment technologies, and this reduces on theft, reduces on corruption. Okay, apart from, of course, because the uptake of credit cards and debit cards as a means of payment in Uganda is very low. We only use them online. Is there any hope of introducing proper point of sale terminals like chip and pin terminals in smaller shops up country? Is it something that's on the radar? Because at the moment we are mainly a cash economy or cash society. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Then the last one is you talked about the airport. Sorry, I'm gonna drag you back onto the airport. Is there any way for us, we travelers, can have an authentic list of products, okay, of merchandise or goods that are prohibited, okay, that are prohibited into the country? Because we are having situations where I buy my iPhone from here, I buy my small TV, 14-inch, 20-inch, 25-inch, take it, or my computer monitor, take it with me as part of my cargo. When I get to the airport, someone comes up and say, hey, that good is banned. And I'm like, it's not on your website. And then they ask me to pay taxes for something that I've bought for personal use. And my understanding is they go to an extent of asking us to show proof that this product is not for commercial purposes. I mean, because you come with I've seen it where this boy brought his shoes, and they were quite expensive shoes, and the customs people at the airport asked him to prove that he's not going to resell them. I was so upset, by the way, because that did not make sense. Because those are my three questions. So if you could, at least if as a bare minimum, the airport could come up with that list so that I don't waste my money to buy something that I know that is not going to be accepted into the country. Okay. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, Mr. Bugema. I'm only stopping you because I'm seeing the time. We just have 9 minutes now, including answers to the questions. Let me actually, because we might end up forgetting. Just to remind you, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are live on 75W Radio. We are also live on Umma Connect on YouTube and via Zoom, where we are at this particular moment in time. Mr. Muramira, I'm sure you've had the questions. If you can probably take them, and then we'll take the two questions from Zamunda and have to wrap up.
Yeah, sure. The issue of the airport, Mr. Gerwa, that feedback is taken. I believe it's something that is straightforward. Let me note it. Let me note it for action. The areas that you've talked about for skilling and the previous training that used to happen, that could have been overtaken by events, but also let's recognize that there's been a deliberate effort by government and the Ministry of Education to streamline vocational training. And what I talked about earlier on is how we can benefit from the diaspora, is how can we benefit from the standardization and certification because now we are dealing with global investors, we are dealing with a global village. Certification and issues of standards are becoming very, very topical. So we must align. So much as, yes, we have the skills, but are those skills at a level standard? Do they meet the market expectation so that we are ready to plug in? But I want to respond importantly to the issue of power.
Yes.
Uganda government and the Ministry of Energy over the last 10 years, the investment has gone into construction of roads and also construction of dams to ensure that there is enough power supply, to ensure that there is connectivity. If there is anything that we can credit our president and our country, Uganda, and be proud of, is that you can leave Kampala, go to Arua, in a short time, you can go to Fort Portal, you can go to Kisoro on tarmac. Power, we are now oversupplied. We are bringing other dams on the line. Very soon, we are going to be the biggest exporter of power on the East African power pool.
But the price is still very inhibitive for local consumers, Mr. Mohammed. It's one thing to have the power, but it's another thing to have the prices being affordable.
Kassim, that is now one thing at a time, one issue at a time. I think the issue that we were dealing with before was the issue of power breakdown and load shedding. I do not remember when I was last load shed. Now, what now we need to do is, how do we fast track payment of obligations? How do we increase our tax collection to ensure that we offload the obligation and then be able to give a free service to the population and bring down the rates? So for my good brother who's into fishing, there is hope. Supply, that one we have already addressed. There will be power everywhere. As I speak, Umeme has been tasked that if you need your concession to be renewed, there are certain obligations that are needed to be done. If not, then of course, the Uganda Electricity Transmission, together with the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company, are tasked to ensure that they deliver power across the whole country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muramira. We have really put you to a hot task, but this is what you're paid to do, and you are doing the job very, very well. Surprisingly, we only have 4 minutes to go, and the hands are coming up, and it means some people are itching. Actually, Muzamiru's hand is up, who was asking about the electricity, but let's first go to the people who are coming first. I'll go to Zamunda, Hafsa Kasujja, Muzamiru, and then Suleiman Chimuka, and we'll try to wrap up. This has been a very important engagement, and getting people from the UIA is not the easiest of things. We have had the chance. Let's make sure that we utilize this now. So Zamunda, please keep your questions short so that then we'll take the 2 questions. Hasfaka Switcha, Zamunda, and then Hasfaka Switcha. Then we'll hear from Zamira and Suleiman Chibuka to wrap up.
Brother, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rakomeyuraho.
Alhamdulillah, huna zama kuru.
Makuru ya.
Wallahi ndishi mechana.
Amin.
Nani enda kubuzo kumusiza Peter. Ona mazima Peter. I will use English since everybody is using English, maybe my small English. Wallahi, I would love. Peter seems to be very intelligent and very smart guy. I would love Peter. I know the project, maybe it's for government. I would love Peter to kind of disconnect when he's giving us all these ideas and all these investment and whatever is going on. I think, Peter, you receive good input or output from the audience if you remove yourself from saying the government is doing such and such, because let me tell you, my brother, I've been in America for 20 years. I've done so many projects in Uganda, but all of them failed. I've bought properties, they end up getting sold, and then those people are buying them are people who are in the government. Then you fight back to get another person from the government who is bigger than the other person to go fight for you to get this property. I would love Peter to just engage with us sometimes, maybe when he comes back, just us, like one-on-one, because we have so many ideas and have so many things that we see can help our country. But I'm telling you, wallahi, it's a frustration. Like here in DC, in Washington, DC, I'm going to give you the classic example of myself. I own a business in America for 17 years. I was contracted in the embassy. I worked in the embassy under Kamnanwiri and then the follow-up. I was contracted in the embassy when Edith was there, Ambassador Edith. Then I worked under Kamnanwiri. Kamnanwiri left. Then other people came, those who followed the embassy. Kassim, I know, he knows. Wallahi, one time, there were these sisters and brothers who were working in the embassy, and we decided we're going to, in order to fight corruption back home, we have to fight corruption here first. Wallahi, when we started saying, this is not right, this is not correct, they wrote a letter, myself, my company, they terminated my contract. They hired my Spanish employees. Wallahi, they are there right now. I gave them some of the stuff I was using because I was not envious to them, because they asked me, Señor, necesita. They hired my Spanish people to work in the embassy. And then those other sisters who are working in the embassy, they removed them. They put the Asian people who are working in the Ugandan embassy in Washington, D.C. Omutima gwa Uganda, what happened? Because all the money that we were making were invested back home. Half, 50% of the embassy staff in Washington, D.C. are foreigners. The drivers who have been there for over 30 years, they're all, one is from Cote d'Ivoire, has been there for over 20 years. The guy who is from Congo Brazzaville has been there over 20 years. They fired all the Ugandan drivers. Why? Because you see something, you want to correct it. I have so many pictures, evidence, and all that stuff. I can give you names of the people I dealt with. I can give you all the checks I was writing.
Your point, Zamuda, is you'd rather Mr. Muramira engages with the diaspora by in a personal capacity, which would be difficult though, because that would be going out of his remit. Or what?
But you see, wallahi, my brother, let me tell you, diasporians, they don't have to invest in Uganda. Diasporians, they can do it here in this country, in America, they can do it in Britain. But the frustration, my brother Kassim, the frustration, I sent 5 containers in Uganda, all lost. The last one was stolen in Tanzania. Then I said, Wallahi, Alhamdulillah, I'm done. So, and then at last point, I have so much, but last point is infrastructure. America does infrastructure. Before they build a community, they set up the infrastructure. They put up the roads, the water system, the water, the internet. They build thing. Then they start constructing houses. My brother, I joined late, but I was with someone who was joined earlier. My brother said the internet is better than him. That's why we cannot see his beautiful face. We cannot connect with him face to face because he said the internet is probably slow, or if we cannot build the infrastructure first. Diasporians, our mind have changed. Some of us who have been here so long, our mind have changed. We need things to go. But if you cannot connect the people through the means that modern means, then our investment will go to dust because we have invested so much.
Stopping you just
Kassim, can I jump in?
Yes, please do, Peter.
Yeah, just to first of all, deep sympathies to our brother. I know what it means, when you deploy investment and you don't see the return. This has also happened in other forms. What we're seeing is appeals from investors saying, look, my lawyer has defrauded me. My lawyer took more than he needed, and there's nothing to show for it. But this is where we come in. Peter Muramira, as Director of Investment Promotion and Business Facilitation, is charged with the responsibility of making sure that there is diaspora partnerships in Uganda. I am actually measured by that deliverable. Quarter on quarter, how many diasporans have you engaged who need partners that are credible onshore? That then would tell the effort that you're talking about. How many does such an effort inform in terms of prevention of what you're saying? And we are tackling that from not that we are being responsive or kind of reactive. We want to prevent it in the first place from occurring. So we must make sure that we are doing things doing things right, making sure that from documentation, from the sources of products, from the receiving facilities here, everything is authentic. And this is not because I'm doubting your path. We just want to make sure that we are not reactive, but that we are responding specifically to ensure that we are doing things in the right way and we are minimizing such cases. Where there is any issue that is persistent in that order, then we are ensuring that the courts of arbitration, the commercial court, and areas of intervention, we are engaged with the Attorney General's office, we are engaged with the High Court leadership to ensure that we are fast-tracking cases and cases that are of commercial interest, are of investor relations related. We do make sure that there is action and there is outcome as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Haspa Kasujja and then Muzamiru, and we finish with Suleiman Chibuka.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
I'll make it short and sweet. I know everybody else has also talked about infrastructure. My point is about infrastructure, and it was going to Mr. Nikia. What was his name? Julia? Naika? I'm sorry. My apologies. Yeah, that what infrastructure? We have a problem with the infrastructure in Uganda. Are there programs to improve the infrastructure, especially things like small industries to help farmers with packaging, greenhouses, so they can be able to upgrade or upscale the products that they're shipping? And also the question of transportation from the rural areas to the urban areas. What kind of infrastructure what should, I'm sorry. The infrastructure is still lacking. So I'm just wondering with Mr. Julius, what measures are being put in place?
Is that for Mr. Julius or Mr. Muramira?
That's for Famanera.
Okay,
yes.
Actually, I'm giving him the last word actually after Mr. Muramira finishes. Thank you very much. Muzamiru Uchaya, please unmute yourself.
Yes, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Mr. Muramira, I'm sure you are hearing a lot of salam alaikum is coming.
Yeah, I think it's the time of the night.
Yeah. Mine still goes on the electricity. As you read the question, I've invested a lot of money in that thing. But when I went to the offices of Umeme, because they told me from where the electricity is on the main road to where the facility is, they estimated about 12 electric poles, and they were saying each pole is about 900,000. So for all that investment I put there, and then they're charging me all those per pole, they're charging me that amount of money. What can I do really to make sure that the facility is doable?
And Mr. Uchaya, maybe you forgot even to add, which is very interesting for Mr. Muramira to get to know. Your farm, your project is just across the Karuma. It's just across in Mutunda. It's Zatura, with the other side of Karuma, where the big dam is at the moment. Why the person that is closest to the dam is unable to get electricity is quite interesting. We'll take Suleiman Chibuka's questions so that he answers them both, and then I'll call Mr. Naika Julius to wrap up once Mr. Muramira has finished.
Thank you.
Suleiman Chibuka.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kayira, and thank you once again, all the participants. I just want to make 2 points. First of all, it was really very interesting to hear that of the fast tracking system that has been put in place to ensure that anyone who has got an investment program. He has his papers, prepared and finalized and in place within less than 12 hours as a new target. I think you set yourself a highest benchmark, but I hope it's a demonstration of the determination to ensure that people are given all the incentives. I just want to talk about one thing. These could be, maybe, green lights and, some good news coming, but, I do so much value the impression any potential investor, little diasporian coming back home gets. Highly spirit to go back home, but the first impression gained at the airport can equally be either devastating or it can be a motivating factor. Quite often we've been so much used to that and we get prepared, but there is a new phenomenon now at the airport, and it's only happened to just one person, but it becomes now everyday story. And I think I just want to bring this to Mr. Mulamila again, because, the last thing you wouldn't like your potential investor to have is the last impression, because not all people, diasporians and other foreign investors, have to enjoy the privileges of the likes of Mr. Aliwen Damala, commonly known as Akon, because he's a high-flying figure. The way he arrives, the way he departs is going to be completely different. What has been observed at the airport nowadays, that doesn't matter how accurate you try to be with your weight, your luggage, it appears the weighing scale at the airport have got something really, strange. You are allowed, for example, 23 kilos of in your bag, but you arrive at Entebbe, you weigh your bag, you're always going to be some 5 to 80 kilos extra, and you have to pay. It's not a question you can leave your extra kilos there. They will not let you go. You have to pay for that. Okay, that is acceptable. There could have been missing there, but the problem, what is very, very, I don't even know how I can describe it, is for someone to insist that, look, use your phone, send this money, use what do you call it? Wave. And send the money onto a personal account. Wallahi, it has happened to me in the past. The lady gave me a paper, said, look, Mugalu, you know what to do with Mugalu. Gave me her number and the name and sent the money. I said, okay, thank you very much. She even had to escort me all the way down before I boarded. And Mr. Kibuka, don't forget. And I said, okay, I wouldn't. Wallahi, last time it happened to my wife, she was in Uganda. They couldn't let her board the plane. You can't leave your extra kilos. You have to pay. And she had to pay on that personal account using her phone. What a shame now. If the first impression is going to be very positive for any potential investor or diasporian coming back home to make a contribution to the country, how about that last impression? It's becoming, it's the norm. It is just everyday business, and it is done in the clear vicinity of everyone, from the observing manager, the person on the. It is so sad. It's so sad that, you really sometimes have to feel that when you know that it's going to happen, you rather put a £10, note in your passport rather than waiting to be told you have to pay £40. Wallahi, it's so shameful. But, I think it is within the remits of Mr. Mulamila, because this is about investment.
And it's about the image. It's about the image of the country as well. But I think it also goes to mindset, Suleiman. It goes to the mindset. Getting people to change their mindset, given the longevity with which we have lived through these particular, traditions, will take a bit of time.
Mr. Kayira, before I could finish this, because this is the problem now. We know the person is at the counter managing, the check-in process. He or she is there as a representative of that airline. Yeah. But we know she or he's not doing the name of the airline. Now, if my wife comes back here and she wants to make a complaint, it will, reflect negatively on the airline. Yeah. But actually, this is not the policy. Yeah. So it will be very interesting, Mr. Mulamila can make a comment on this. And thank you very much. That will be my last word.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Mulamila, you have the last word, then I'll go to Mr. Julius Naika to wrap up as well. I'm sure he's starving at the airport. Both of you are starving. Mr. Mulamila, you have the mic, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. The last impression issue, that is really sad. Both in terms of the conduct issue that you've mentioned, as far as receipt of monies on personal accounts, but also the irregularities around the weighing system. What I'm aware of is that as government, we do not encourage mixing money for personal use and of course for receipts of services that are payable. And those services are displayed, and I think it's a matter of principle where we need to work together to ensure that culprits are brought to book. So I'd encourage as you as fellow Ugandans in the diaspora to speak up. Yes, you pay, but ensure that you share such details with the kind of supervisory people who are on the site to ensure that some remedy can be put in place. As far as the power, is concerned, we do have, of course, and I'm sure you're aware of this, that Umeme concentrates in the urban area. They will charge you if they have to come to where you are outside their geographical place, but otherwise any rural areas are a matter of the Rural Electrification Agency and the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. I am happy to help you. I'm happy to pay a visit to your facility to investigate the matter and discuss with Umeme on specifically what has happened. I know for sure there are parts in in Serengeti, around Chibungo, where we have actually gone and made impact in terms of making sure that we deliver power just through our engagement with our stakeholders. Just on engagement, not that we are enforcing any rules or policy or escalating matters to ministers and above, but we are just engaging with the officers and we are rectifying issues. I'm happy to engage on your specific issue and bring it to conclusion. But otherwise, to assure you, our dear investors, and as we conclude, that Uganda Investment Authority is now a new authority. We do not want to pretend anymore that there are no gaps, but we must address them head on. And this is both on the policy side, but also on the operational side. And that's why we have hired deliberately a workforce in place, technical experts, be it in the industrial zones, be it in the free zones, be it in the offices of the one-stop center, to ensure that issues of connectivity, issues of speed, issues around enforcement are all in order, and ensure that you receive a service as our investor. I thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Muramira. And just to say, just as an ad-lib, we are running a big project in Kiryandongo, which I think will need your quick attention. It is one of probably the first diaspora project of its nature at that size, and I'm sure you will take interest in that. Now that you've mentioned that, I think I bring it to your attention. We will be actually
kindly. I'm happy to engage.
Thank you very, very much. In the chat room, Umma Connect says, Mr. Chimuka, did you remember to send the money to the personal account? Farida was saying, I don't even pay a single penny for extra kilos. And Farida was saying she will make sure that Chimuka pays up the money. Thank you very much. We'll go to Mr. Naika now to sort of give up our last, and then we'll wrap up and say goodbye to both Mr. Peter Muramira and Enoch Julius as well. Naika, you have the last word, I think, on the matter to respond to what is happening on the ground. I'm sorry we've kept you at the airport this long when you have already arrived. Right, if you can unmute, please. Julius, can you unmute, please? If you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. As I'm closing, probably I know a few people came on board a bit later. So Julius again, managing director at Famnera. And actually, for those who don't know my background, I think KK knows well because we've shared. I have a background in accounting and financial management, and I also have a background in software engineering. So that's what, those are two areas. And farming, I learned on farm as a practitioner of farming. And actually, I've worked all my way through Pamunera. I've been working at Pamunera since my university. I started this way at my university time. I was in my second year, 2013. And this way I've worked all through up to now. And it's a company I've built with passion, not, I know, yes, money is something, but I built this to solve a big challenge because my education was catered by farming, and problem we used to have are things that I decided to solve such that I can be able to support other parents and relatives that are facing the same challenges that in agriculture, in that if we can have a complete solution for them, I think it's something I can be able to contribute as a person to the rest of the world and other people who are actually putting the bills for their kids on farming. And so it's a passion. So I've built this, and probably also to engage with, to probably point out something directly to Mr. Peter Muramira. I've really heard you clearly, and I think you're someone different. Because personally, when we started out, you're a different man, Mr. Peter. I really want to appreciate that, because I've failed to actually get anything in terms of arrogance that I received myself. Because especially when we were starting out as Pamunera, I used to engage with several government institutions that I know that are really directly in charge of supporting my cause of sorting out the agriculture sector, right from inputs, extension services up to produce marketing. I engaged with Minister of Agriculture, I engaged with Uganda Investment Authority, I engaged with everybody that is directly in charge. And trust me, even Minister of Trade, cooperatives have always been shut out. The doors started to open up when we hit the billboards, when people realize there is no longer, they can no longer shut us out because they couldn't shut us out anymore. But trust me, as an innovator, where I started from, if I can sit down to tell you my journey, and trust me, you can't believe how many doors I was shut because I had something that was willing to solve certain problems. And I think people want to have these leakages remain in the system because probably that's where their business, their indirect business is. But the moment you come up with a solution that is closing those leakages, you probably look a threat to them. I didn't know because I was an innovator, passionate about technology, passionate about solving the agriculture sector. I didn't know the whole game that to some extent you actually killing people's business unknowingly, and I was shut out. But now I've been able to.
Naika, we've gone over the time. So may I ask you to answer two questions, please? The first question was from Honorable Michael, who was asking that he would like to support farmers in Katapi district, which is very dry but with fertile land, which would be the best method that would be used in this very dry area. The second one was the support to smaller holder farmers, which I think would be nice to sort of for you to sort of wrap up the concept in terms of how Pamunera works with the farmers.
Oh yeah, yes. In line with the farmers in Katakwi, we have solutions that are related to drip irrigation systems that are very cost effective. These technologies have been realized from Israel, some of the countries that are well known for applying cost effective methods of farming. And these technologies are in position to, the drip irrigation is in position to sort out that issue of dry climate or dry weather as farming keeps going on. These are solutions that can easily be funded by even the smallholder farmer who saves a little money. And approaches like credits, alignments, and also savings for those inputs for the drip irrigation systems are available in that they can be worked out. And also to the diaspora's people or investors out there, we know you have relatives back home. You have even people that you want to support, like I would say community people. Trust me, Farmnera is a platform that you can be able to order for anything wherever you are. It doesn't matter. And all you need to do at the time of purchasing for that person that you want to purchase for, you select buy for another person. Whether you're using our USSD code or web app, or you actually using our call center, you can be able to order for farm inputs on behalf of another person, meaning you're sponsoring for another person. So meaning your relatives are catered for, your friends are catered for, and even the community members that you're willing to support. So that is something you should be able to note. Then the other question, Mr. Kayira, maybe you can be able to paraphrase it again. Probably I didn't get it right.
Well, the Gataki one has been, you have answered it about the drip, the irrigation, and because of my next question would have been whether it is cost effective for smallholder farmers. But you've said through the savings they can do that. Do you have any means of Chibanjampora? Because we are used to that in Uganda. Is there any Chibanjampora on the Farmnera platform for seed?
Yes. Yes. So under the UNCDF projects where we are partnering with them, we have a provision for farmers to be given credit for inputs. We have a partner on board called Insibuco. So we have a consortium, and Insibuco handles the credit line in case farmers or farmer groups or cooperatives need credit lines for inputs. Then Insibuco disperses these funds on Farmnera platform. Farmnera now issues out the inputs, and then we deliver them down to the farmers. So under that, but under this partnership or project, we target farmers that are under VSLAs, I mean Village Savings and Loans Associations and SACCOs. But later on, because we've been trying to get on board other partners like UDB, Uganda Development Bank, and other independent companies, we want an independent financial organization to now be able to also tackle and handle independent farmers and also farmer cooperatives, but also later on from the VSOAs and
You're right. I think your line is giving up, Julius. Thank you very much. A lot of beautiful information there. Mr. Peter Muramira, Director of Investment Promotion at Uganda Investment Authority, and the CEO of Farmnera, which is the, agri-tech company, one of the couple in Uganda, but one of the best actually in terms of being a platform for where you can get some of these facilities. Mr. Muramira, thank you very, very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to see you and to have you on here. I hope this is just the first time, but not the last time. There is so much that is still going on. There's a lot that we need to tackle. And whenever you feel that there is something probably burning that has come up that is new, just flag us. We'll be able to do that. This platform actually on many times, because now the time difference is playing us a little bit with the GMT. But normally, this platform, you have so many people, but even the few that you think here, 34 people in the context of an investment forum, this is a lot of important heads that actually make a huge difference. And I thank everybody for your contributions, for your very beautiful questions. And Mr. Muramira, you are a star tonight. Actually, you've been able to provide some kind of inspiration where there has been frustration. I hope we can actually pick up that spirit, drive the patriotism. But I think my parting word would be, make us feel appreciated, make us feel loved. And that is the only way I think that will bring confidence. you'll see that many people leave the big hotels. You'll go there, they'll come in their beautiful uniforms and so on. But you go to Mama Mega, Mama Prosi in Toningira, and you see the kind of attention that you receive. You can end up, in somebody kasupu marewe toke rianga, they give you kasupu, then you finish kasupu, you say somebody toke marewe kasupu kan. Before you know it, you've had your fill. It makes a huge difference that you go back there simply because of the kind of attention that you're given. I think that is the kind of view that we would be expecting from the Uganda Investment Authority, but also now filtering into the other government departments. It has to start somewhere, and I hope this can be the real start that we need. Thank you very, very much. And Faith, thank you very much for getting us, Mr. Muramira, on short notice as well. Thank you very much for organizing this. And to you all that have attended my session, I can only thank you very, very much. I hope this actually helps to build ourselves and build our countries back home, inshallah. I can only wish you a very good night. Thank you very much for making the time. Hope to see you next week, Tuesday, inshallah, with a different topic that we'll be discussing. This is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we were live on 75W Radio, live on Umma Connect on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. Have a very good night wherever you are. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Cheers.